have to do it while we...
Good morning, Robbie.
Yeah. Morning.
Morning, Charles.
Morning.
Morning, guys. Welcome to It's Just a Game of Two Halves. Wow, lots have gone on this week, and I've had lots of messages from Spurs fans who said they was laughing as much about Chelsea this week as Robbie was laughing about Tottenham last week. So I think we'll come back to that later on in the week. And yeah, but I do want to start off with the Carabao Cup Final, boys, which is today, really the first Cup Final of the year. It's always been a thing for me, Cup Finals. And my dad was a driving instructor, and his mate used to referee. And I think I was about 12 or 13. I can't think how old I was. And he got 2 tickets for a League Cup Final. It's the first time I ever went to Wembley. It was Norwich Aston Villa in the League Cup Final. The only final that has been played between 2 teams outside the top flight. And I ended up in the Villa end. And so I thought, me and my mate went, right, we'll support Villa, because we're here. And Ray Graydon, Villa, took a penalty. I think it was Gunn, the Norwich keeper, pushed it onto the post, come back, and Ray Graydon scored. It was 1-0. That gave me my love of Wembley, with the foundation shaking and all the fans shaking. And I don't get it when people don't love, the cup finals. Last year, Newcastle won it. It was amazing. Palace won the cup final. So Arsenal, City, the 2 top teams at the moment in the Premier League. First thing first, Charlie, do you still love the cup final, the League Cup Final? I think it is relevant. It's the way into Europe, but it's also a great away day for the fans. And obviously, who do you think is going to win it?
Yeah, I do like the League Cup. Like you say, it's the first trophy of the year. I know the kind of stigma around it, and if you win it, it's a trophy. But once you get knocked out, well, no one wants to win it anyway. I kind of, people, that's how people view it. But I always found it's a good, for sides that are doing well, or sides that haven't won a trophy in a while, it's been a really good catalyst for them to go on and win more things. I remember United went 2 years without a trophy. We beat Wigan 4-0 in the League Cup Final. And Ferguson always said that was the big, it made the players hungry for success. They just wanted more. So, it can be a great thing. For me personally, I hope it's a great game. You don't get many good cup finals, do you? Whether it's League Cup or FA Cup. They can be a bit tricky, but I mean, look, my cousin George is a massive Arsenal fan. I've got friends that are Arsenal fans. So for them, I do want Arsenal to win it.
Robbie?
Yeah, I love a cup final. The games aren't always good, to be honest. I think this game will be tight today, but I always think as well, when I remember when Mourinho first came, he took it seriously because you want the mentality in players. Charlie touched on it there. You get the mentality of winning something. It's not a second-rate cup, it's a cup, and everyone's in it at the beginning. So I think it's great. I've seen us win it and I've seen us lose it. And you have a day out, it's great for the fans, and it's still a trophy, it's a celebration. Why do we play football? You play to win something. Everyone's got a chance. So I think, I don't know what the game would be like today. I mean, we've spoken about Arsenal a lot, and if I was going to have a bet today, I'd probably bet the draw, and then probably someone like City on penalties I'd go.
Yeah, I've got to be honest. I think this is a massive game for Arsenal. I do, because I think they got really good draw in the Euro, which we spoke about. They qualified for the quarters this week. And I think if they win today, football is so full of confidence. I want to go back to the relegation scrap later on from speaking to some Leeds fans today, and things are getting tight down the bottom. But I think for Arsenal, it's really, really important. I spoke to Robbie O'Fair. Man City's been to Wembley 21 times under Guardiola. So if that has any relevance, I've just looked at the way the 2 games have played. I just can't see Arsenal playing any different, Charlie. I think Arsenal will keep it tight. They'll hope to get their corners. If he will obviously have done his own work on how to play against it. Robbie said leave 3 up front, so they've got to leave 4 at the back. That stops so many in the box. But I think Arsenal just play it tight. And I think if Arsenal get a goal, I think they win it 1-0. I can see it going to penalties like Robbie. But I think it's more important for Arsenal. They're 6 points clear now in the league with 7 to go. I just can't see them losing the league. And it's a possibility, like George told us a few weeks back, Arsenal could win the Old Four, Charlie.
Yeah. I think they will still win the league, whatever, no matter what happens today. But I do think, yeah, just for those players, just to get that, over the line, they've been called bottlers and, whatever else for so long now. I think it'd just make them want more, especially, when they've got the Champions League and the FA Cup to come as well. Yeah, like you both say, I can't see it being a great game for the neutral. I do hope I'm wrong, and I'm hope next week we're sitting and talking about one of the best League Cup finals ever. It was 4-3 or something, but yeah, I think they'll just cancel each other out. But then you look at, City at the moment, they're a bit of a wounded animal, aren't they? How easily they got knocked out of the Champions League, and I think Guardiola will look at this, and for a side that for a guy that's won it so many times, he'll want this as a point to prove, I think.
Yeah, Robbie?
Yeah, I think he will. Both of them want it. It motivates players, doesn't it? That's and the fans. You gee them up because you want more with it. I think in the game today, the best thing we can hope for is a very early goal, without controversy, without VAR, just a proper a goal from open play early on, and it will open up. I hope.
Yeah, I agree. I've looked it up. Liverpool have won it 10 times, City 8. And believe it or not, Arsenal just twice. I went 86, 87. So I told you I started going to Wembley every game after I'd done that first game. And it was the first time there used to be a saying at Liverpool that if Ian Rush scored for Liverpool, no one ever beat him. And at the time, Arsenal had a player called Charlie Nicholas, was supposed to be the big thing. I don't think he ever really fulfilled his potential because he was known as Good Time Charlie, weren't he? But he got 2, and the Arsenal fans immediately made a song. Was 1-0 down, 2-1 up, with Efl Rush's record up, which I thought was very clever, which they did it. And they've also won it when they beat Sheffield Wednesday. So, yeah, you're right here. I think it's just a game of cat and mouse. And I go back to last season. I think this is massive for Guardiola. I really do think this is massive. If you go back to the cup final last year, whether you think Henderson should have been sent off or not, Ireland, I don't think he was one-on-one with the goalkeeper. It was the left-hand edge, the right-hand edge of the attacker's side. And Ireland put it by him, and Henderson handballed it. For me, it was an indirect free kick and a booking. But at the end of the game, Guardiola come on, and he was almost squaring up to Henderson, wasn't he? So I think he's a man in despair. He's not used to losing. And I think this is so important for Guardiola and the rest of their season, Charlie.
Yeah, look, they have been a dominant side for so long now, but this year it does seem very different. They just don't seem to have that invincible aura about them. And like we've said for so long, one of the reasons we do think Arsenal will win this league is because City just don't look like that side that are just going to go, and win every game from now until the end of the season. They are struggling. He looks a bit exhausted, or something's not right. That whether he's got, they've gone and bought players that he didn't want, whether he can't play the football he wants to play, maybe they've just been figured out. Who knows? But if they lose today, maybe this could spell the end for Guardiola and City.
I agree, Robbie.
Yeah, I totally agree there, and I think Guardiola. I think he wants out. I think maybe it's something personal, maybe it's football. I don't know, but I think he's looking at taking time out, and I think if they lose today, I would guess he will leave in the summer. He'll do it on his own terms. They won't sack him or anything like that. They're not idiots there, are they? Unlike my club, I think he'll leave at the end of the season. Either way, I think he'll go, but he'll either go with a trophy, and be happy with it, or he might just think, okay, I've done what I can. I can't take him any higher. He's won everything with them, to be fair. And like you said, how many games at Wembley they've had. So his record's been brilliant. I just think football goes in cycles, doesn't it? Arsenal are about to win the league, haven't won it for 20 years or whatever it is.
No, I agree with you. I'm 100% agree with you. I think managers just have a lifespan. I could never believe it when the Arsenal fans always turning on Arsene Wenger. What he brought to the club. When for the likes of, let's say, the lower teams, and I'm not talking your Man United, Charlie, Robbie's, Chelsea, for the likes of West Ham and every other team, say, outside the top 6, we start the season and we know we've got no chance of really winning the league ever. Never won the league. But you sort of hope for a good cup run. And that's why I can never understand why some managers don't try for a good cup run. A few years ago we was in the quarterfinals, and Sam Allardyce he made X amount of changes. Like we got walloped by Forest 5-0, and he went, "I don't care. I'm concentrating on the league, and that's what we want." I was talking to a Leeds fan this morning, but I do think managers themselves. I mean, look what happened to Brian Clough. He stayed too long at Forest. He ended up taking them down. You should get it inside yourself. This is my plan. This is what I want to do for the club. I want to put good infrastructure in. So hopefully we can bring players from the youth. We can certainly bring players for the era. I don't understand why, especially the London clubs, West Ham, that, with such a big Muslim area, whatever you want to call it, lots of Indians, lots of Pakistanis, there's none coming through, and if you speak to a load of the lads and you go, look, why ain't there no Muslim lads coming through? And they go, well, our dads, they know it's less than 1% of the youth structure that will eventually make it to the big team. And they go, no, you're not doing it. You're going to go away and be a doctor. You're going to go away and be a lawyer or whatever. But I do think clubs now, especially with all these money restrictions, they should go round to the lower leagues and look for people. They should also use, we won't show it at the moment, but Newcastle have invested massively because it don't go in to the fair play stuff in the infrastructure. And I think in about 5-6 years' time, Newcastle will reap the benefits. Boys, so I'm going for an Arsenal win. Charlie, before we change the subject.
Arsenal in extra time, 1-0.
Robbie?
Yeah, I'm going City on penalties. I think it'll be tight.
Yeah, I just think they nick it 1-0. Right, boys. Obviously, I watched a lot of Europe. I went away this week. I took my mum away for 4 or 5 days, and it was a Spanish hotel. So, although there was someone singing, they did have the TVs on. So, I watched a lot of the European games. I've got to tell you, with the expansion of this league, Charlie said last week, that's the reason, because we all wanted Bodo Glimt to get through, all of us, the 3 of us, and they ended up getting spanked 5-5 by Sporting. There was some really bad aggregate results. And I mean, Bayern was 10, Chelsea lost 8-3, didn't they? Arsenal Sporting 1-5, Spurs lost 7-5. They put up a really good fight, I thought, Spurs, give them their due against Atletico, but they lost it in the first 15 minutes of the other game, didn't they? They won 4. And then obviously, I think really the shock result of the round for me was the Barcelona-Newcastle game. I thought Barcelona, when they played at Newcastle's ground, sort of dominated. And it was sad, really, that they got a goal late on to make it 1-0. And I thought they went up there as a real good chance of winning. And I watched the first half and I thought, yeah, you've still got a good chance, but they just decimated in the second half. Are the European teams, are we stretching this Champions League out too far? And like we said the other week, when it gets to the busy part of it, the quarters, the semis, does the cream just rise to the top? And is it right that these teams should be being spanked? We'll come to Chelsea in a minute, Charlie. Charlie, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, I mean, like you say, with Tottenham, they kind of lost it in the first 15 minutes at Madrid. I wasn't overly surprised that Barcelona knocked out Newcastle and got a few goals. I mean, yeah, by that scoreline, it was a bit of a shock. English teams have always struggled in Europe, especially against Spanish teams. We'll go far in competitions and everything else, but there's never really been a time, where English teams will win Champions Leagues, like say 3-4 years in a row and things like that. Whether that's just the demands of the Premier League because it's a tougher league or whatever, I don't really, you could argue that, but I think in terms of like we've said, the standard of the Premier League is not good. We've all said all year, even last year, that Premier League's quite poor. It's not as good as what everyone thinks. So, and I think this kind of shows this in a way.
Yeah, Robbie?
Yeah, I mean, I can't make any excuses for my lot. There are some things, I think the amount of games that we've spoken about and some teams, even, I make fun of Spurs, but even them, Chelsea, a lot of these players look absolutely knackered. And there was a thing that it's not an excuse, but PSG had their league game, they postponed it because they were doing well in Europe because their league obviously wants them to win it, which I get. The Spanish clubs do that a lot, or they'll play a game on a Friday instead of the Saturday or Sunday before Champions League. You don't get that in the Premier League. It's almost like the Premier League's the be-all and end-all, and that's it. And I do think a lot of players, too many games, but ultimately, we've said it, the league isn't as good as we think or like to believe. When I look at that, and Chelsea got an idea, and they lost it in the first game. That was, it kills off because you're chasing the game. The same with Spurs; they were chasing from the beginning. And at City, they lost it in the first game as well. And teams like Madrid, they know how to win these competitions. And I'll say I backed Bayern Munich to win that, and I think they'll go close. They've got a world-class striker, and they seem to be geared up for it, don't they? So maybe it's just the players and that aren't as good as we think.
Robbie, I've had this conversation, and I don't want to bore people with it. Probably, are you telling me that players playing 2 games a week is too much of them? And forget the money, right? I'm going to take the money out of it, right? If you all talk to all players, they all hate the training, but they love to play. They say, we love to play, we love games. It's boring, the training over and over, blah, blah, blah. Don't forget, there was no cup games, yeah? So it was 2 games in a week. Are you telling me that the players are too tired? Now, where did you travel to France, right? Which was probably on the train, it's half an hour, and then in the coach, but they probably flew into Charles de Gaulle, probably like 40 minutes. Are you telling me that's took it out of them? And if Chelsea would have had another day off, they would have played better?
I think they would have played better in a million years that way. But no, but they're playing 3 a week, a lot of these clubs. And I think it's an accumulation for a lot of players. You had the cup thing last summer, the Euros before that. This year there's a World Cup. Some players, for all teams, they're going to be playing 3 years without any kind of break. And I don't know what goes on in training. I think sometimes there's probably too much. It's too much intensity and going on about physical things rather than the actual football bit.
I agree. I don't know if you've seen Thomas Tuchel has given, I think it's about 10, 11 players time. They can arrive late. He's given them another couple of days rest for this England squad, and we'll go through that in a minute. Charlie, do you think it's too much to play 2 games? I don't get it, me.
I think, like you say, as players, they just want to play games. To them, they don't, and they can only tell you how their bodies are, can't they? But they all are all saying now that they are playing too many games. There's too many games in the season. It's too bunched together. I mean, England is still kind of have that tradition of how how many games are crammed in over Christmas. It's an hard one. But then, like Rob said, Spain have been doing this for years where they let Madrid and Barca have weekends off, or they'll give them an earlier game just so they can prepare longer for the Champions League games. And the Premier League have never done that. They're like,
but Charlie, it only takes someone to propose it and 14 people vote for it. And then you get older Sky and you go, if you want the European teams, you play on a Friday.
Yeah, I know, but like most of the Premier League, you get because they probably maybe they have, and the rest of the teams in the Premier League have gone, well, we don't care if you win the Champions League or not. But no, just because you don't want to play at 12:30 on a Saturday, don't mean we don't. I think there is a little bit of that, but then also look at the start of the year, and even foreign players have said this for years. When they come over, everything in Europe is about the Champions League, and it's their number 1 trophy. When they come over to England, they're really surprised because all they hear the players talk about is winning the league. We do take the league first and then the Champions League second. But yeah, I mean, look, I'm not overly surprised. Wasn't shocked by the Chelsea PSG result in a way. I think PSG are a real good side. They showed that last year. Yeah.
Look, I when I looked at the Chelsea and then results, first of all, if you get 6 teams right to propose, like Wolves did a couple of years ago, they wanted to get rid of VAR, and 6 teams had to back it, and then it goes to the vote, and it didn't go through. Yet again, yesterday, I think it just shows that the Man U game, they give 1 penalty for the same thing and didn't, but we'll come back to that. So the 6 teams who wanted the Super League, they can propose it and get it in there, and they go, right, on our European nights, we want to play on a Thursday or a Friday. Sky change games around weekly. They go, right, we're not having you on a Wednesday now. We want you on this game. So, that's the way it is. I just think it's an excuse. I think you are right. There's the pace of football is played differently to where it was years ago. But I go back to Liverpool. When it was the Champions League, they used 13 players for 42 games and won the European Cup, the Champions League. I think it's a poor excuse. I like paddle over it. It's massive paddle. I see paddle tournaments, which I watch on the telly. They play a tournament. The games last 3-4 hours. Next week, they're doing it again. You watch tennis players. They play 4 or 5 hour sets. The next day, they play again. I mean, over here, cycling, really, in Spain, is as big as what football is. In fact, they drive you mad because the roads, the single roads, it's smashed with them and you can't get by them day in, day out. They're out riding 4, 5, 6, 7 hours up mountains. The next day, they're doing it again. Let's not put footballers on this pedestal and think they should be fit enough. I think there are players that ain't fit enough. But I think it's a poor excuse. And I think really at the end of the Champions League, it happens every season, no matter how bad Madrid or Barcelona ain't played well this year. I think the cream rises to the top. While we're talking about these two, I got a couple of phone calls off people, Chelsea fans, Robbie included, which couldn't care less if they get rid of Mr. Rosenior. And I was surprised that Newcastle fans reckoned that Eddie Howe should have handed in his resignation the next day. One, Robbie, do you think that Rosenior surely not this early? I think he's made a lot of mistakes. And Eddie Howe, do you actually think they should be replaced?
Well, the thing with Eddie Howe, I quite like him as a manager. I think he's done well there. He got them their first trophy in whatever it is, 60 years or something. He's trying to build it. He's got to get experience, obviously. Playing Barcelona's, we've just spoken about, it's a different game. But the manager needs to gain experience. I think they'd be crazy to get rid of him. Well, Senior, the thing is, talks a nice game and all of that. He shouldn't have been appointed.
No.
The structure, I'm not going to bang on about the owners because, we'll be here for about 3 hours. But they've picked a guy that's a yes man and knows their system instead of going years ago. If that was Abramovich or someone, they got in Ancelotti and and people like that coming in. He's out of his depth, and I don't know how inspiring he is. He talks a lovely game, but I don't know what he's like in the changing room. I don't know what it's like on the training field. I think you spoke before about an assistant. I remember when we had Steve Clark there. I think he needs somebody who's going to do that part for him. Because I think he's out of his depth, and I don't think the squad is good enough either.
No, I agree, Charlie.
I think with Eddie Howe and Newcastle, look, they're doing quite poor in the league, admittedly, and I don't think anyone expected them to knock Barcelona out of the Champions League. I don't know, again, whether it's kind of, expectation versus reality with fans, They won the League Cup last year. I mean, what? Did they think they was going to, go and challenge for higher honours this year? That's just not the case. It doesn't work that way. I think they have struggled in terms of recruitment, in terms of I don't think they was able to really take it on to that next level. I mean, all right, they signed that Watermader for a lot of money, but that, he's not some generational talent kind of thing, I think, look, if they'd have got European football this year and maybe got to another cup final or something like that, I don't think they could have really knocked that. I do think they've performed badly in the league. With Rosenior at Chelsea, I think he's doing a great job.
Is that every Spurs fan listening is like, yeah, we got him. That's revenge.
No. In all seriousness, I think anyone who would have gone in there, I think would have struggled. I think Chelsea are one of the most unmanageable clubs in world football. I really do. I think it's disgusting the way they treat managers. I've got to be honest. I do feel sorry for him to a certain degree, because you are expected to hit the ground running, especially with a squad which is so much has been spent on them already. But it's not his fault they've got a terrible goalkeeper. It's not his fault you don't really have a world-class centre-half. And it's not his fault you've spent so much money on players and not really strengthened in the areas they should. But if Chelsea don't get Champions League football this year, I think they'll probably get rid of him.
I agree, Charlie. I watched the Chelsea game yesterday against Everton. And I fully expect, in my bet, I did an ACCA and I expected you to beat them, you know what I mean? But I thought, mate, they were so poor. I mean, at the end of last season, you know what I mean, Garnacho wanted out at Man United because they they didn't get Champions League football. Lucky Man United, I say, because I think he's useless. Everyone wanted Delap, didn't they? Were saying, what a great buy he would be. Personally, I think you do need like a centre half, a prop centre half. But the goalkeeper has been appalling. I speak regularly with your dad, Robbie, and he's even last year, when we were talking, he said the goalkeeper's useless. But I do think like you must have better out there than Delap and Garnacho because they're just so poor. I watched a Real Betis game in the cup final. No, it might have been a league game. It was against Sociedad. I can't remember. And you got rid of a player called Anthony, Charlie. And I always said he should have played on the left wing because, stopped being an inverted winger. The running that lad did for the team. I don't follow the ball, because we do this. I watch off the ball what players do and how people don't hide. I've had this conversation with other people this week about play. It's an easy place to hide on a football pitch when things are not going for you. But the pace and the effort he made to get in the box at one point to score a goal, I think they won 4-1. There was a spectacular goal that one of their players got. Was second to none. But when he was at Man United, Charlie, he just looked like a surly, sulky, not interested. A bit like Garnacho. I remember when, I think you put too much pressure on Garnacho. I did like years ago when Ferguson brought in Januzaj and he was going to be the next big thing, weren't he? And I think it was just too much pressure. But I think they're hopeless, Robbie. I don't think Garnacho is a great player. And I think young Delap should be put out on loan and learn his trade somewhere. I just don't think he's good enough for him.
I never wanted Garnacho anyway. It's the thing, going back to the owners, they bought him, Gittins and Delap, probably cost about 140 million. Our best centre-half did his knee ligaments, never replaced him, and it was obvious to the whole world that the goalkeeper needed replacing. And they haven't done it. They've wasted the other money. Garnacho's a funny one because he's clearly got the talent, but I don't know what his mentality is like, and he drifts in and out of games. Delap was the one I actually thought was going to be really good. He was an old-fashioned centre forward, and I thought that's what we need. But it hasn't worked out for him, and I don't think they'll send him on loan. I think they'll sell him because it's kind of a no-brainer with an English guy. You're going to get your money back, and he'll go off somewhere and do well. The keeper, well, if you watched the game yesterday, and we're not allowed to swear really, so I can't say too much, but he gave away 2 goals yesterday. And he did and the other goalkeeper in the PSG game. You don't want to go away to somewhere like Everton, who under Moyes, they're going to be defensively tight. They're going to be well drilled, well organised. And you got the goal. You give them a head start. And then the heads drop. And then the passes are not working. And then the second goal again. And the keeper's fumbled. And he's doing an impression of Spider-Man on the floor or whatever. And then you just think, the game is over because you've given it away. So how these guys have spent £1 billion or whatever it is and haven't realised that, hey, you know what, guys, we need a goalkeeper. It's beyond me. And it's shocking.
I agree. The courts have said this week that they froze Abramovich's assets, didn't they, and his money. And, of course, that money's been getting a load of interest because we're talking in the billions. And the court have released it this week. So if you get him back, he's got plenty of spare money out there. Guys, I do want to nip to... I do think Eddie Howe survives. Just maybe to the end of the season. But Robbie, I think if the scores keep coming in bad as it is, we know what that Bowley, he's just like, he'll put his hand in the hat and pull it out. I don't think anyone had even heard of Racinia, did they, before he come out?
I mean, he did a good job for, in Strasbourg, but that's a little bit different to a club where you've spent $1 billion and they're expected to be competing. We're nowhere near a league challenge, Started it. Also, who's going to get in? Because most managers will think, no, you know what, I don't fancy that. But
it's the money, isn't it, Robbie?
It is, but like that Enrique at PSG, he actually wanted the Chelsea job before they gave it to Maresca. Now, I know we can talk about ifs and buts all day, but this was a guy who was clearly experienced at the top level and also knows how to deal with big players or a big squad even. Chelsea's squad is huge.
Yeah, but Robbie, I'm just looking at the table here. Arsenal on 70, City on 61, Man United on 55, Villa on 51, Liverpool 49, Chelsea 48. You're not out of it, Robbie. That fourth spot is really up for grabs, really, I think, between Villa, Liverpool, and yourselves. And Liverpool still in Euro, which is going to, like you say, it affects them. Liverpool is still in, it affects them. So I think you still have got a chance to get in the top 4.
I just think Chelsea have been worked out. Every team now, if a team is well organised, well drilled, they know that they can play a high line. And Chelsea, unless Esteval comes on or they get the ball to Palmer, then maybe. Like yesterday, we had no shots and then had 6 in about a minute, but none of them went in. So it doesn't amount to much after that. But it's also a lot of the football, Rossini's football, Maresca's, it's kind of sideways. They'll go on about possession, which bores me because I can.
I agree, Robbie, but I do think I've said it before. I think football is a psychological thing, and I think the English teams, especially like Newcastle, who haven't been there, Chelsea have been there and done it. They've got to learn how to play European football. I remember it was Gary Neville once, like when he was playing for Man United, and they was trying to win the European, and they interviewed him at the end, and his first words to the commentator was, "Did Juventus got through?" So psychologically, Gary Neville always had it in his head that they didn't want to draw Juventus because they knew Juventus was going to beat them. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of it is psychological. At the end of the day, it's 11 on 11, and who plays best on the day goes through. Guys, I got a very interesting message off a Leeds fan yesterday because I said to him in the relegation battle that they can go up to 41 if they win. They've got 7 games left, Lee. So even if they get 7 draws, it takes them up to 40. And he went, well, we want wins, blah, blah, blah. So I says, well, not really. If you look at the teams around you, you know, I think it's Leeds 33, Tottenham 30, Forest 29, West Ham 29, Burnley 20, who got beat yesterday, and Wolves on 17. But I spoke to another guy who we had on here a couple of weeks ago, Lee. Let me read his. I thought it was very interesting what he said. And it was quite nice to see that what he wrote about the manager. So he put on, it was a frustrating point yesterday, but someone said it on the radio last night and summed the match up perfectly. It wasn't a must-win game for Leeds, but it was a must-not-lose game. Mm-hmm. And I think this time of the season, he's hit the nail on the head, isn't it? Really, all Leeds need to do is match West Ham and Tottenham and Forest, and Spurs, or or go better. He said, we didn't play wingers for attacking because he didn't want to leave the back open. And obviously, as fans, we wanted to win, but was furious at the point. But it's understandable in the grand scheme of things. Do you think Leeds are right to play that way, Charlie? And like maybe the fans were frustrated, but do you think, it was a good point yesterday?
To a certain degree. I mean, look, every point counts, but I think home form can be so key, especially for teams that are going to fight relegation. And I think Leeds fans would have gone into that game going, this is definitely winnable. I mean, don't get me wrong, Brentford are having a good season, They're not far off like Everton and Chelsea and that. But I think Leeds fans would have gone into that thinking, we can win this. But yeah, look, they didn't lose. It's a point on the board. I mean, what with Tottenham and Forest playing each other today, either one of them or both are going to drop points. West Ham have got a tricky game away to Villa. Every point counts at this stage.
Yeah, for I come to you, Robbie, they've got 3 more home games, and their fans are great fans up there, aren't they? The Leeds fans, and 4 away games to come. So I think they've got to concentrate on them home games. Robbie, what's your opinion? Were Leeds right to play?
I didn't watch that yesterday, but I was watching boxing. But you know what? Brentford are a funny team because they can come and destroy you one day, and the next week they're terrible. So I think he's probably gone out to nullify Brentford's attack early on, because if they go a goal up, the fans turn. So he might have gone safety first. I'm sure they wanted to win, but he's probably thought, you know what, this would be a good point against a team that's chasing Europe. They will have obviously easier games. Matching the teams like West Ham and Spurs and Forest, that's logical. I think Leeds will stay up. I don't think they'll go down, in all honesty. But they're going to struggle again next season.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think today's game, obviously Spurs went out, didn't they, as we know, but Forest stayed in Europe. And if you boys are right and I'm wrong, it is detrimental to the form of Forest if they have to do a lot of travelling. But I do think it will say a lot about who stays up and go down. For me, again, I think they could negate each other today, and they could both end up drawing, Charlie. Spurs Forest.
Yeah, Spurs Forest. I think with Spurs, it's if they go 1-0 down, and then they that the crowd start to just get a bit dejected, that energy kind of can feed onto the pitch and everything else. I think I don't think they can afford to go 1-0 down, really. I think they'll really struggle. With West Ham, I wouldn't surprise me if they walked away with a draw or something today, because they've been so consistent in at least getting the points and being so hard to break down now. And what with Villa playing in the week as well, sometimes that Europa League form going into, that Thursday, Sunday can be such a problem for teams down the years. And if I was West Ham, I certainly wouldn't go into this fearing Villa at all.
No, a guy rang me yesterday, and he was talking about the loss of Paqueta and how the West Ham fans was up in arms that, eventually went and everything else. But at the end of last season, when Kudus went, I went, look, he weren't doing anything for the team. And the problem with Paqueta, I think, if you are as skillful as he is, a bit like Bruno Guimaraes at Newcastle, sometimes they are 1 or 2 steps ahead of the game. And Nuno said he wanted everything to go through Paqueta. He was the star player, which with Bowen's head, he's a star player. And I think with Paqueta going, they've just fell into a system where their form has changed. I think it's changed everything for Thomas Souček, from everyone not even wanting him in the team, suddenly want him in the team. His contract runs out at the end of the season. But I do think sometimes the 2 players up front, they're not consistent goal scorers, Castellanos and Tati, but they don't stop running. And what they do when they play up front and they're running, they end up starting off the high press. So it doesn't give their defenders a lot of time to play out. I do think they've got a good run of form. West Ham, I think Villa at the moment will be their biggest test, but their last game of the season, believe it or not, West Ham's, is against Leeds, Robbie.
I don't know. I think it'll be settled by then. I think it'll be safe by then, to be honest. I think get a draw today, like Charlie said there. And if you look at Villa's results after European games, they haven't been that great. And I do think their manager, he's won that competition, I think 3 or 4 times. And I think he'll be going for that because that's guaranteed Champions League football if he wins it. And you've got to realistically think that they could well win that trophy. And it's a trophy. So I think you get it. The big one today is Spurs Forest. Forest had a good win, didn't they? I know it was late and travelling, but they'll be buzzing from that. They'll be up for it. And they'll probably know it might help them being away because they'll know that a lot of these Spurs fans today are already going to be in the going in the stadium with doubts. They won their first game or whatever it was for weeks the other night, yet still lost overall. So their confidence is shot. And I think if Forest go there and play it tight and the crowd starts, getting the and it becomes a bit flat, I think it will suit them. If they go 1-0 down, obviously, if Spurs go 1-0 down, I won't laugh, I promise. But, we'll see.
He can't go a game with that, was it?
No, but I think
we want to talk about the championship because next week I've got a Millwall fan coming on, and I bumped into a Millwall fan, and we just spoke really about. I had some interesting conversations in this hotel. Football fans, we were talking, you listen to their conversations. But they had a good result yesterday, Millwall. Yet again, they drew with Ipswich, who are up there, the tractor boys. But it goes Coventry 80, Borough 71, Ipswich 69, Millwall 69, Hull 66. Southampton have suddenly hit a good run of form, on 63, Wrexham on 63, and Derby, surprisingly. I spoke to an Irish guy from Ireland, and he was a Derby County fan. And which was an interesting conversation. But I think Coventry really now 9 points clear. I think they're definitely going to go up. Borough, Ipswich, Millwall. I hate the playoffs because normally the team that comes in third, don't normally go up, do they? They normally lose in the playoffs, which is quite sad. Down the bottom, I mean, Wednesday's already gone on it. Oxford 39, Leicester, sadly for Leicester 39. Bournemouth 40 and West Brom 43. Do you think if Millwall did come up, which just brings up what Robbie's done a bit of research, Charlie, they could actually stay up? Or do you think with the amount of fans they got and the investment they would need, it'd be almost impossible for them to stay up?
I wouldn't say impossible because I don't think many people gave Sunderland a chance at the beginning of this season. Look, you always look at the championship at the start of every year, and I always want a team to go up who's not played in the Premier League before, or you don't see in the Premier League very often, rather than the normal West Broms and Norwiches, bit of a yo-yo clubs. it would depend how they would go about it. We've seen Burnley do this where they've put hardly any investment in the squad, really. They've kept the same players, and then, the next season, it's just become almost Premier League fodder, really. And then we've seen other teams who have put a lot of investment in the team, and it still hasn't really worked. It would be interesting to see how Millwall went about it in the summer. But, from a neutral point of view, I'd quite like to see him in the Premier League.
Yeah, I agree. Their average attendance is just over 16,000. People think we throw this together. We actually don't. We do research a little bit of things. And I asked Robbie in the week to do a bit of research of how the teams that come up in the Premier League, in the Championship, but also in Italy, in Spain, in Germany, and do the same three go down that normally come up. I've looked at the Spanish League. I'll talk about that in a minute, Robbie. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, the Premier League. I've got it here on my notes. I mean, the last 2 seasons, 3 teams that went up went straight back down. Generally, in the Premier League over the last, let's say, 5 to 10 years, or 4 of the 5 last seasons, at least 2 promoted teams have gone down. Okay, and on occasions, all 3 of them. So anyone that comes up, even Coventry, if it's Millwall, which I do think would be great for the Premier League, Middlesbrough, whoever it is, without the right investment, they're going to go down. It's going to be really difficult. Unless you've got a team that's having, like Wolves this year, just didn't win a game for about 3 months. So that's probably saved the relegation place for someone else. The German league is a bit different. Usually only 1 promoted team goes down. But they do have a playoff thing there that I read about where the third from bottom plays the third in the league below. So they've got a kind of an escape route, but usually it's just one of them. I've got the Italian ones. Probably 1 or 2 of them go down, but then you've got teams like Como, where Fabregas is, who are doing great with it. And the French one, if I go through that, it's kind of mixed. So there's more variance in that one. The Spanish one, I don't know the Spanish league, but I would guess there are probably a few clubs like La Palma or somewhere where they struggle because they haven't got the investment, can't get the sponsorship. And I think that's a big thing for teams coming up from the Championship. Like, say Millwall go up and Coventry. Do they go all in and spend? They know they're going to earn about 100 million. Do they go all in and spend it? Or do they, like you said, Burnley, this is a funny stat. In the last 5 seasons, Burnley have either been relegated or promoted, which is a real real definition of a yo-yo team.
Yeah, I agree. I've had a message off Leeds fan, funny enough, and he moaned. He's a doom and gloom merchant, my mate Paul, and he said Leeds have now not scored in 405 minutes of Premier League football. Could be a downfall to survival. I don't think so. I said because Charlie spoke about this right at the beginning of the season. He said it'd be so tight this year. I think it could come down to goal difference. And I agree. Boys, I hate going on about this again because you know me, I don't want it in the Premier League. It's now apparently going to Wimbledon next year, VAR. Do you know, they're just sports. You have that feeling that Wimbledon is like a gentleman's sport, you know, and they can now start questioning and have appeals. Did you watch the Man United game, Charlie?
I did.
Did you think they were both penalties, the one he gave and the one he didn't give?
I thought Bournemouth was a penalty. Maguire pushed him.
Let's go. We come back to Maguire's in a minute. Your goal, he give a penalty, yeah, and then literally 10 minutes later, the young black lad on the wing, I can't think, was cut in. He did exactly the same thing as he did the Cunha, but he didn't give that penalty.
You see the guy, he pulled his arm and then he grabbed his shirt a little bit. It was a penalty. Whether people want to say it was a soft penalty or whatever else, it still was a penalty. He didn't get the ball at all. It was, and then obviously Bournemouth went down the other end and, and scored from it.
But what's the difference between that, Charlie? Sorry, what was the difference between the first penalty you give for Cunha? Who was it who went down, Charlie, in the second one? Was
Diallo.
Diallo. And then the second one, he didn't give against Diallo. If he gives the Cunha one and he thinks I thought that was soft, but you give it as a penalty. But then he didn't give for exactly the same thing.
I know, look, I get human error and stuff. I personally think he didn't want to give. I think if he'd have not give the first penalty, I think he'd have give that. I think it was a case if he didn't want to give 2 penalties. to the same team almost for the same thing. I genuinely think it was that, and he probably in his head he was like, well, if it is that much of a Stonewall penalty, it'll go to VAR. But yeah, we are talking about it again.
No, I agree. I mean, the Maguire one, I think it was a penalty and it was a sending off. But I can't see how you can give one penalty for the same thing that happened 10 minutes later and then not give the next one when you give it for the shirt pulling and pulled them down. It don't make no sense. Robbie, sort my brain out on this VAR. I've had enough.
No, I didn't watch the United game, so I can't comment. I haven't seen it. But it's the same thing. It's inconsistent. One week you get a penalty for something, and the next week you don't. And then this pulling shirts and the rugby tackles in corners and stuff. I don't know how deep they can go into it, but every game I watch, it's like a wrestling match at a corner. And they'd probably, if they followed it to the law, there'd probably be about 50 penalties every weekend across the Premier League. So I don't know. I think again, it's consistency and the clarity of what you can or cannot do. I watched one against João Pedro the other day, and the guy's pulling his shirt. Now that should be a yellow card, but it wasn't. Nothing happened. And on another day, you flick a guy and he goes down. So I don't know with VAR. It's just the inconsistency as usual.
No, I agree. Now, boys, we have got some international football coming up. I've got to be honest, it's lost its spice for me. I think if you're an England manager and it's not going to be anything controversial, you should be an Englishman or a British person. I want it like that. Let's just go through the squad. Who you think should or shouldn't be there? I mean, he's picked 5 goalkeepers. I've no idea why, but he's picked Henderson, Pickford, Ramsdale, Steele, Trafford. You agree with all them, Charlie?
Yeah.
And then in the back, he's put Byrne, O'Reilly, Gay, Hall. I can't read my own writing here. I think it's Kesa, Consa, Spence, Livramento, Stones, Maguire, Tomori. Midfield, he's put Anderson, Mane, Bellingham, Palmer, Rice, Garner, Rogers, Henderson, Walton. And up front, Bowen, Kane, Calvert-Lewin, Madueke, Rashford, Eze, Foden, Saka, Gordon, and Solanke. Now, listen, nothing personally against Jordan Henderson. Why would you not try youngsters out in the squad leading up to the World Cup? He's not going to be the future of the team, is he, Charlie?
Oh, I can't. I don't. It bugs me that they just. There's no reason for him to be there. There really ain't. But also, I feel like Tuchel knows by now who some of these players are going to be in his starting 11. Like Harry Kane, for example. We all know Kane's going to start for England. Let's just say to him, look, don't worry about international duty. Have a couple of weeks off. I'm going to try and give someone a go who's playing well, and I think who's a bit, maybe on the cusp of joining the squad, maybe not. And I'm just going to give them a chance. You're going. Do you know what? Like, don't worry about it. It's just to give other people a chance and they're more of a shout to get into the World Cup squad. Some of them don't need to be there. And others you think, well, hopefully they get the chance. But one thing that's going to bug me is if he selects this big squad, there's players there, maybe like a Bowen, who, who's got a chance of getting in, and then he barely plays him. And it's like, well, what are you taking him for? What's the point?
26 players. I've just looked. For this World Cup, it was less in the last one. You can take a maximum of 26 players. Why we've got 5 goalkeepers is beyond me. Robbie?
I don't know with the goalkeepers, but can we have one? Right? But
I know what Ramsdale, do you?
I'll take anyone over what we got. I think maybe he wants to have a look at them, maybe he wants to talk to them. I don't know. It does seem, that Pickford's going to start probably. Charlie said that Harry Kane's nailed on to start. And yeah, he's in great form. I probably would give him time off thinking about the World Cup. And I know he's captain. Henderson has always been a funny one, but and nothing against him personally. So I don't think he's that good. But I think he must bring something to the dressing room. He must bring something to the young lads. He's got a lot of experience, and I guess as a character, he must be like another captain in there for them because he knows he's probably not going to start games at the World Cup.
Yeah, I agree, Robbie. But if you look at the front line, right? I mean, we had a Leeds fan on the other week who told us that Calvert-Lewin deserves a go, didn't he? Do you remember? He said have a go. But like Bowen's form has improved since Paqueta's gone, right? And then it's got Madueke. Is he good enough to go? Eze. He ain't played well since he went to Arsenal. Rashford, like one of the biggest problems that anyone's had in their change room in ages Why would you take him? Phil Foden. What has Phil Foden done this season? Saka. Anthony Gordon, I think he's had a great season, actually, a really good season. I'd play him left wing. And Solanke. What has Solanke done? Surely, Charlie, out of them forwards, we can find someone better than that, surely.
I think it goes to show how lack of options we really have. The fact that we've got to pick such out of form players. You know, and the thing is, there's no one else who you can kind of look at and go, well, yeah, they deserve a shot. I mean, I get what I mean. Yeah, I do think Calvert-Lewin kind of deserves a go. Arsenal fans have kind of been slagging off Madueke and Eze, you know, for the last couple of months now. I mean, going into it, or if you look at most of the form of the English players, it's not exactly great.
Yeah, but you're going to need a squad, Charlie. I mean, it's going to be people go, you're stupid. I think Danny Welbeck would have been a good shout, you know. He's a good squad player. He's a great professional. And I'll go back to Rashford. You know, I'm not talking about Rashford, the player. I'm talking about Rashford, the person, you know, with his surly attitude he's got. When they go away, they're away for a month. You've got to have players that bond. I've said this before. Robbie, can you just quickly go through the who you would for the midfield? Anderson, Mainu, Bellingham, Palmer, Rice, Garner, Rodgers, Henderson, and Walton. I mean, who other than Henderson, nothing personal against him. Who stands out? Now, what has Jude Bellingham done, really? By them signing Mbappe, I think it ruined Bellingham because he liked to score the goals and play a bit further. But since they've signed Mbappe, he's not had a great season, Robbie.
No, and you know, even Palmer and stuff, but they are match winners. Rodgers at Villa, I think he's a good player as well. But you can't put three players that basically play the same position in one team. We had this years ago, didn't we, with Lampard, Gerrard, Scholes.
Yeah.
You've got to find it. Tuchel needs to find a system for them. The striker thing is worrying because it has been for the last, let's say, probably 10 years. If you take Kane out, if he gets an injury, we haven't got a striker. And if you look at the top teams in Europe, even not just the Premier League, how many of them have got an English striker? Even
35 players he's picked, Robbie. Now, bear in mind, we've just said that you can take 26 at some point or other. I mean, I think Ollie Watkins. I don't know why he's still not got. I love if you're going to play ball to feet. I think Ollie Watkins is a great shout. It depends. Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Surely, you know, when I was a kid, you was brought up on the fact that you got into the England squad based on your form.
Mm-hmm.
That has not been the case since Sven-Goran Eriksson. I mean, Sven-Goran Eriksson, you could pretty much pick his squad before he even announced it. He always picked the same players. He was notorious for it. But players these days, the England squad is almost like, you know, sometimes, like Rooney said it on a couple of weeks back, he was being picked. He wasn't playing for Man United or he weren't playing well, but he was being picked because of his name. And I think a lot of these have had really bad seasons, but because there's no one else and because they've already played for England at major tournaments and stuff, Tuchel's like, well, I'm picking the same players.
No, I agree, boys. A fascinating subject. We must, as we get nearer and nearer to the end of the season, we must start adding this. Sorry, we ain't got time to. I wanted to do the other squads, Home Nation squads, but we just run out of time. Boys, it's been yet amazing again. Please like and subscribe. It don't cost you anything. You just hit that like button. It helps us with the analytics. Please share it if you've got some people. We are trying to grow the channel. And as we all get more time, hopefully we'll be able to do a couple of videos a week. Boys, thank you very much. Have a great afternoon. Thanks, Charlie.
Yeah, cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.